So you would go into the recording studio, and because you've all pooled in your £25 each, and the big thing that everybody knows about is the clock on the wall. So you'd know you'd be in a rush the whole day, but you've picked on 3 songs. You get in there, you get them. Usually you get the drums down, and then you would start overdubbing, sitting next to the desk and overdubbing. That's usually what most bands would do, because it was the sort of professional way of doing it. Looking back though, it would have probably been better to have just gone in and just done a live recording, but you didn't really do that. Like, you wanted to try and get the audio and the performances as close and as professional as you could for this finished demo tape that would be sent off to a local record label or one of the bigger labels. You'd be looking at the clock. Hopefully by 12 o'clock you've got all the backing tracks with the drums down and the bass. I mean, this is all setting microphones up and everything, you know. So you've got this lad, he's setting up all the microphones on the drum kit, microphones on the cabs, and then he's back in there next to the desk. We play, off you go, get the drums down. And you know, this is all before really 12 o'clock, even earlier, maybe he's 11. And then what he's got to do is get the bass down. Bass is usually in the control room. Get that down. Get the guitars down, maybe his keyboards if there's a keyboard player. Get all this done by 1 o'clock. And this is full on, like. But if you rehearsed back in the day, you were a band, you had to you had to be tight and you had to be rehearsed. Whereas you're going to go into a recording studio and waste £100 because you're not going to get anything done. But credit to these lads who were running these small studios that I've never heard of any stories where bands went into a studio to do a demo tape back in the day and came away with nothing. There was always something recorded, like. So there must have been a lot of, you know, the worded politics and just nudging the band to, you know, we need to go a bit quick, or maybe you don't need to put that in, or, you know, we're running out of time here, or maybe you can come back tomorrow, lads, you know, and we can finish it off. Oh no, definitely not. Well, we're skint, man, you know. How are we gonna do that, you know? That's another £100, so that's a nice way of putting the pressure on to get it all done in one day. So you would have that's done, all done by 2 o'clock. In with the vocals, get the vocals down, and then maybe it would be from 4 o'clock till 6. It was always long days. I mean, you think these lads were doing this every day of the week, you know, different bands, like. I mean, how exhausting is that? And then mixing by 7 o'clock at night, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, it's done. So maybe he's by about 5 o'clock. So the producer lad said, right, that's it, get everything packed up and I'll just get on getting this converted down to tape cassette. So you'd start packing your stuff away into your car, your van, back in the studio. You'd have the cassette for you. You write the name of the band on the side of the cassette, the songs, and you maybe get about 2 copies of that, because you know you'd have to play them through to record them onto another copy. That's time as well. So you maybe get a couple of copies, and if you wanted more copies, come back and see them. You can run them off. But that was it, and it was all done. And then you'd be exhausted. You go home, you have a kip, and you wake up the next day and you'd have a listen, and it would always sound great. It would always, that's your band. So the next day you're creating duplicates of that tape, however you do that, or if you go back and see them, you pay some money to get some duplicates printed up, and you get them sent off to local record labels. Now the studios themselves were all pretty rough, like. So you've got to imagine back in the day, the 1980s, you've got punk bands coming in, heavy rock bands, heavy metal bands, new romantic bands, what maybe early goth bands, you know, every sort of band of all ages coming in, especially the younger lads in bands, you know, eccentric young rock stars and punk stars. There's going to be a lot of beer spilt and a lot of cigarette holes in the carpet, so you'd be walking around and your feet would be sticking to the floor like as you're walking, with all the just months and years of beer being sloshed about on carpets, holes in walls, you know, where some rock stars kick the wall, graffiti on the wall, snot on the wall, empty cans, empty bottles lying about. I mean, a complete wreck. And even in the recording console room, which would have a window looking onto this space where you'd record, there was no better in there. There'd be a little settee behind the console where the bands and that would sit on, full of holes. You'd stick to that as you were sitting down. It would be sticky and damp. The whole place stunk of beer and fags. And the more rank really these places were, the better, because that's obviously that's busy, man. That's where all the young bands are going, because the guy does great work, so they all go back there. And big old tape, reel-to-reel recorders, and you would just, your whole life up until that point, rehearsing with a band and then learning your instrument, was always about getting the studio. So it didn't matter what state the studio was in, because it was a console. It had faders and knobs and dials and flashing lights, and it was just really, really exciting. And all that, unfortunately, with the clock on the wall saying how long you've got, all of that's gone. And back in the day, that's what created great bands. That's what created great bands. The fact that you'd have to go into these places and spend your hard-earned dole money, or if you were working, hard-earned money, because you'd be so well rehearsed, you'd be so many competition with other bands and musicians out there. You would believe in your music, you would believe in your band, you would believe you were going to make it, you were going to be one of the lucky ones. And to get in that studio, doesn't matter what studio it was, with your mates, like John Lennon was saying to the Beatles, where we're going to the top. What top? The toppest of the toppest top, Johnny. All in it together. And that was the first step up the ladder, that recording studio. There was 1980s recording studios. And the guys who worked in them, they were the unsung heroes, completely at the cool face of the music industry. Those young lads, engineer producers, they wouldn't make or break a band, because you could only record how as good a band was, but they done so much to lift a band up into believing through the sound that was coming through that tape cassette, into believing that yes, they could do it, we really can do this. And that was how it was. And hats off to those young engineer producers. Great memories of those recording studios. Gone now forever. But great days. Great days.